by a dancer, and we perform it together with her name is Gabrielle Armini, and we performed at Carnegie Hall a year ago. And yeah, the title is Calypso. Calypso, you guys know this story very well, Odysseus, about Ulysses. How do you pronounce his name?
Odysseus.
Odysseus. Just if somebody doesn't know exactly what it's about, it's from the book 5th and 6th of Homer's great masterpiece, Odysseus. Odyssea by Homer. And it tells the story when, after the Trojan War, he tried to get back to his island. His wife in love with their child, their dog. But he ended up in this strange island, and the queen of this island, kind of Dea, of this island, Calypso, she liked this man, Odysseus, and she did everything to make him stay there. So, and it was very, magic islands, like every day, it's passed like a year. So he spent just a few days, but it was several years. So when he realized that, after his rest and all his crew, he decided, no, I need to get back home, finally. I should make it. Anyway, so she asked her permission, she gave him this permission to build a new ship and just to go struggle again in the seas and fight with Poseidon, whatever. So this is dedicated to the memory of this story, which also very related to my great-grandfather, who lived the life almost like Odysseus. Let me tell you his story. So he was a commander of the personal guard of the last Russian emperor. Probably if you guys know about this crazy history of Russia, where we stay nowadays, nobody knows. But by the time when it was Russian Empire, and we had Nikolai II, last Russian emperor, so my great-grandfather used to guard him, and he was a tall man, a beautiful man, and very great man of honor. So during the World War I, which, as you know, lasts from 1914 till 1918, so the October Bolshevik Revolution in Russia happened in 1917, so the last year of war. And just during the first 3 years of war, he already had 4 Christs of St. George. It's a very high military in Russia order. And all people who got this order, they actually buried in front of the Kremlin in Moscow. But not my great-grandfather, I'll explain you why. So when the revolution happened, he supposed he was committed to death because he was very close to the emperor. And so he had to run. He was captured by communists and they shot him with other men, but somehow he survived with a bullet in his shoulder. And his wife, she took him from the place with all dead bodies. He was just bloody, but still alive. So she put his body on the horse and just let it go. So he disappeared for many years, and he ended up in Japan. And I know that he had family in Japan, but then he got really strong homesickness. So he wanted to move closer to Russia, but he couldn't because he was white. It was the red period of communists. So he ended up in Harbin. It's a northern city in northern China, and the capital of Russian immigrants by that time. So he ended up in Harbin. He had another family in Harbin. But crazy guy, yeah, I know. But finally, he always was wondering to get back to his Russian wife, and they also had kids. They had 5 children. 2 of them died in the Second World War. He didn't know that, but he wanted to come back to his wife, and there were 5 kids. And the craziest thing that she was waiting for him all the long years.
Wow.
It's a real true story. And so when he found 2 guys, they were contrabandier, how you pronounce it? The guys who bring stuff from one country to another. Yeah, whatever. So he made a deal. He paid them with a golden medal, monets of the Russian gold, and they tried to help him to cross the border. When they crossed the border, they decided to kill him because he was carrying a lot of gold. But he was a military guy, so he was always wearing his military shoe with a Mauser, with a gun. So he shot those two bad men and came back to his wife, to his house, but under the false name, of course, because he couldn't make it with his real name, and he threw in the river all he had, like all the gold, all the medals, for orders, which he gave, probably saving someone's life. And he lived the rest of his life under the false name, and he ended up to be a director of one of the first in that region of Russia. It's called South Urals, where I was born. He was a director of the train station. Anyway, so it's dedicated to Pyotr Ilyich Ilyushkin. This is his name.
This is your grand.
Yeah, it's my great-grandfather's name. And the title of the piece is Calypso. One more less Greek, more Russian song that's called Folia Orthodox. You guys have the same roots. Well, I do have the same roots as you. Let me explain you this weird title. So Folia Orthodox, somebody is leaving. Thank you for coming, guys. Take care. Take care. Take care. Let me explain the title. So, Folia is the oldest European tune, such beautiful and such famous, so many countries still, through ages, centuries, can decide where it comes from. So, French people think it's French, Spanish think it's Spanish, Italians think it's Italian, whatever. It sounds like this. Let me give you a very little example of the most famous Folia arrangement for the cello by the French composer and cellist Maren Marais. By the way, there is a beautiful movie. If you haven't seen, please find it and watch. It's called All Mornings of the World. It's about Maren Marais with Gerard Depardieu and his son, and the great Spanish gamba player, the antique cello player. Yeah, about Maren Marais, Antoine de Saint-Calonge, his teacher. Anyway, so here is an example of Folia by Maren Marais. So the chord progression is this one. Somehow, while I still was a student, I started to travel Europe, and I found out that all Europeans still fight about the roots of this theme. I said, guys, you might be wrong because it sounds so Russian for me. But of course it's not Russian tune, so I did my research while I was studying Moscow Conservatory, and probably it's still my theory. I had not enough time and not enough access to the big libraries to fulfill and complete my research, but I think it comes from Byzantine Empire. And as we all know, Byzantine Empire during its greatest period used to take some parts of Europe nowadays, in Russia, and it's really more Orthodox tune than Catholic, which came from Gregorian chorale, because the harmonization of this tune, this particular tune, is so Greek. Anyway, so I wrote my own piece that I took half of a melody by John Williams.